Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here today. We're going to take a look at FET, which is Fetch.AI. It's artificial intelligence for blockchains. It's a really awesome concept. Definitely take a look at it yourself and see what you think. The fundamentals is not what we cover here in this conversation. We're going to look strictly at the technical data to kind of see if we can help you find some good entry points based on the fact that it's increasing significantly and making higher highs right now. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. Before we do, I just want to let you know I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research. This is essentially for educational purposes only. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at the technical data for Fetch.AI. Now, first thing we're going to look at, of course, is the technical data. I always like to jump into the 15-minute chart really quick and then circle around to Bitcoin, see how that's performing so we can just draw a comparison and then obviously go deeper into the technical data on FET. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So FET, here it is right here. And again, that stands for Fetch.AI. That's artificial intelligence for blockchains. And as you can kind of see, they've had a pretty solid increase ever since the 25th. That was 2 days ago when the price did drop lower on Bitcoin. Okay, so this is a 15-minute chart. We'll look at this more in detail here in a moment, but first thing I want to do is just take a quick look at Bitcoin, and we'll take an idea, kind of get a perspective on what's going on here. So again, on the 25th there, that's when Bitcoin hit its all-time low, at least recent all-time low, of 46,930, just a round number 47,000. And the previous decrease, of course, was back here on the 17th. That was D-Day, essentially, for a lot of people on the 17th. That was a Saturday night. So anyways, this is kind of the perspective there. You see it kind of drop down, consolidation, drop down again, and then we had this little dip, and it's kind of back on track, back on par. Okay, so that's kind of how Bitcoin is performing right now. If we take a look at FET, we'll kind of see how they compare. In other words, so you can see the drop on Saturday here. That happened, of course, on the 17th, and Bitcoin had a consolidation period here, whereas FET dropped even further. Probably a lot of fear, of course, in the market, and it dropped out there. So that's kind of what that looked like, and then we get this normal drop here as well as another dip. So as you can kind of tell, it does follow Bitcoin fairly close, but the price action in the last 24 hours is contradictory to that. In other words, it's kept going. Okay, so it's kind of nice. So what we do next is we look at the 1-day chart, and then we'll work our way down to the 4-hour and then back to the 15 and find a good entry point for you. But let's take a look at the 1-day chart, just kind of see what the big picture looks like here. So as you can see, they have a pretty solid ramp up. So as of January 12th was their most recent low, and that was at 0.057. So basically just say 6 cents. And it ramped all the way up to 80 cents, right around, about 87, 88 as an all-time high, and trailed off to recent all-time low is 0.33. So 33 cents was our most recent low. Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and mark that just to give us a baseline, and we're heading there. So that gives us an idea of good strong support level. And recently, I think today it had hit 65 cents roughly. And that's obviously another resistance level. As you can see here, it's tested that level a few times in the past. Let's go ahead and mark that too. I usually like to mark these things on the 15-minute chart, but it's okay to do so on the 1 day because it gives you better perspective with all the price action. We can see how the days are closing, and that might be a little bit more effective. But that is essentially where we're at. So that's the 1-day chart for this. And then just to quickly note before we move on, we can see we have a large volume the last couple of days. The RSI is right around 54. And below that, this is a sweet spot here. If you can see, the moving average convergence divergence is intersecting in an upward fashion. That's usually a very good sign for just say long-term day traders, because the fact that shows momentum is bearish, correction is bullish, and it's no longer bearish. In other words, the sentiment has overall changed and a shift towards bullish momentum. So we should, based on these criteria here, expect to see more bullish days moving forward. There will be a little bit of peaks and valleys, but for the most part, it should continue to progress upwards, again, according to what we see here. Now, the one-day chart isn't, to me, the most accurate. I think it's helpful for long-term swing trading, perhaps those that are holding on for dear life. But for me, more of a short-term swing trader and/or day trader, I prefer the 4-hour chart and the 15-minute. Let's take a look at that next. So, 4-hour chart for FET. As you can see, we've got these moving averages coming through, and of course the strong resistance level at about 65 cents. So please note that 65 cents is a strong resistance level that's been tested a few times in the past, and there's no wonder why it was rejected earlier today. Also note that the price is above the 50 and 100-day moving average. This is a good sign as well, because those can act as support lines. So there's a good chance that we might have a support level right around 52, perhaps even 53 cents based on the previous resistance here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and mark this as a potential support because that does look like it's been tested a few times. All right. And then furthermore, what else do you see on this 4-hour chart that might stick out to you? Well, I see the RSI is overextended, right? And it's no wonder why the price is getting corrected, because it's considered overbought, and that is essentially way too high. Anything over 70 is, just not worth investing in. Obviously, there's different scenarios, and we can look at the 15-minute chart to identify. But on the 4-hour chart, if you're looking at this just abstractly, it would probably not be an ideal entry point right now until the RSI calms down a little bit more. That's just my opinion. I would personally wait to take entry, but be mindful of what's going on right now with everything. So if we look at the MACD as well, you can see down below the MACD does appear to still be bullish, but it is reaching its peak as well. So as it starts to hit its peak and slow down, it could be shifting the overall sentiment. So we should probably expect to see a sell-off in the near future here, and that could actually be occurring right now because you see this really tall wick right here, and it's rejected down to the original close from the last 4-hour bar. So that's neither here nor there, but that's just something to note. We'll look at the 15-minute chart to find a good entry, of course. But based on the overall sentiment here, I think everything is extremely bullish, which is perfectly fine, but not ideal for a good entry point. I do feel as if the price could calm down further, and we want to look at that and identify that soon, right? Because this is trying to decide if it's going to close red or close green, and we don't truly know that just yet. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 15-minute chart now. So here she is. All right. So let's get a little bit bigger perspective here. So here's the push down from Bitcoin on the 25th. All-time low, recent low is 33 cents. Okay, so let's go ahead and mark that, even though I already did. We'll do it again. And looking up here, of course, got our highs as well. So let's go ahead and mark this quickly. As you can see, the last 24, 48 hours has been pretty strong, right? We had the normal jump up here because Bitcoin leveled out right around here. It's been consolidating ever since. However, today, something happened with FET. And I believe I read an article too that they're actually combining with some other industry, and they're offering AI for specific industries. I'll get you an update on that later, but I think there is a correlation because they had like this really good partnership essentially that they've just recently established. I'll look into that later and of course get you an update. Of course, I like to kind of continue to update you as we see things like this occurring because this is a pretty exciting one. But that is essentially likely what happened there. And as you can see, just to quickly note, the moving averages are trailing behind. They always do when the price is violent, as it has recently, and it jumps up so quick. Even the VWAP had to gap up with all the volume. So that's pretty normal. But what we can look at this here is a couple of other things. First of all, on the 15-minute chart, we always want to try to look at support and resistance levels. Okay, so we got the major resistance and major support levels. Now, if there's anything we can do is we can try to find some in between. It does appear that there was a resistance level at about 56 cents previously on the 20th. So we should probably mark that because that does line up with a current peak here as well. And as for support, that could be about 49 cents, yeah. 49 cents does appear to be a decent support level. So it's looking at 49 cents, we'll go ahead and add that as well. So we got our major resistance, major support, and then two trailing supports essentially. So what should happen is it should work itself into this channel here. So what we should expect to see is the price will either continue to sell off and it'll go past the VWAP, it'll test the VWAP and pass. And what it should likely do is bounce off of the previous resistance level of 56 cents. Now what I would do in this scenario myself personally, if I was just say day trading or short-term swing trading, I would consider taking an entry after the price bounces off the volume weighted average price, the VWAP there, which is roughly at about, 58 cents. So if the price comes down and holds for no less than 30 minutes. And just to brush you up to speed, if you're new to my videos and you haven't watched anything previous, thank you again for checking it out, of course, but also more importantly, I'm a firm believer of actually making sure we receive firm confirmation before we take entry. And what I mean by firm confirmation is just that, don't just let it touch that line and expect it to stick and hold. You wait no less than 15 to 30 minutes to identify that. I prefer longer, especially when the price is gapped up so much, so frequent, the way it has, consistently higher highs. You need to wait longer for confirmation. I know it seems crazy because you feel like you're going to miss out on the the increase because it could likely jump up again. But heaven forbid it does and you miss out, that's okay. There's other opportunities, but you need to make sure to just be very tactful in your entry and just don't take a premature entry point, because when you do, you can lose out. I've gotten burned so many times that it's important to wait for confirmation. So waiting for confirmation in a sense, of course, is if the price comes down and just say we see it hit this line right here. If the price comes down and hits that line and then closes, just say not one but two 15-minute green bars, then what we want to do is make sure that we wait for the price to continue upward, right? So if we see it hit that line and continue past it, then we know that it's going to be testing this level instead of this level. Okay, so to me, the VWAP seems to be the best average price that you could look for. It's a consistent, fairly consistent, way for us to identify where the price is at. In other words, it creates its own support and resistance levels continuously. Now, what we saw here, this is a gap. So anytime we see a gap like this, it's essentially, the volume is essentially catching up because we had a spike in volume. Anytime there's inconsistent volume, you'll see the VWAP jump around a little bit, but for the most part, it's fairly accurate. And right here at 58 cents, we should expect to see this be a potential support level. So again, for me to take entry here, I'd want to see the VWAP get tested, hold above for no less than 30 minutes, and then consider taking a position at just say anywhere between 25 to 30%. If you take entry at that point with that small position and the price reverses on you, you're not going to be out that much, right? It's going to be a small amount. That's why I always recommend using small positions, because you want to add to your position as you get closer to your goal. So say your goal is to get up to this line here at 65 cents. Then you add a small position here, and the next time it comes up and it tests the VWAP again, because the VWAP will continue to continue with the price, you can add again to your position, right? So that's usually what I do. And then what you'd also want to do is wait for the price to come all the way to the top here. And if it hits, just say 65 cents and then bounces off and it rejects, it doesn't hold. If it does that for longer than 30 minutes, then you would want to consider selling a percent of your position, perhaps even the entire amount. Because to me, I like to add small percentages here and there, and then slowly keep removing my percentages as I get closer to my goal. So, a good day trader, a good swing trader will have a goal in place before they take position. And my goal is to always take profits anywhere between 1% to 3% if it's a short-term day trade, and then if it's a swing trade, I always shoot for somewhere in the range of just say, 3 to 6%, sometimes 10 depending on the day. But for the most part, a scenario like this, you can't get greedy because the price action being so severe, it could very well reverse on you. But as we noted earlier, it is an extremely bullish sentiment right now. So there's a likelihood that the price will continue to do what it's been doing. Strong increase followed by a short decrease, and it just continues upward. But it will eventually reach its max. Now, the thing to note here, again, this is a 15-minute chart, not a ton of validity here, but the RSI is at 58, 56 roughly, and that's not a terrible place to take entry. Okay, so say for example you took an entry right here, right at the peak, right up at 65 cents. That would have been a bad idea because look, the RSI is over 70, right? When the RSI gets that extreme on the 15-minute chart, it's almost a guarantee you want to try to get out. So that would have been a case in point where if you're already in, you would have sold maybe a good 10 to 20% of your total at that point. That's what I did, honestly. I took profits here and I took profits right here. And the main reason why is because the way that's been acting, it's consistently making higher highs, but every higher high is followed by a low. So you got to be kind of smart and just pay attention because the RSI, as soon as it comes up close to 70, it's time to get out. Specifically on the 15-minute chart. On the 4-hour chart, you have a little bit more time, but the 15-minute chart, you got to act quickly. So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking here. So my recommendation, of course, not a financial advisor, is just to ensure that you wait for confirmation, allow it to bounce off of the VWAP, and once it does, you take a small entry somewhere in the range of 30% or lower, and you wait until the price action continues to increase. If it decreases and it goes past the VWAP, don't stress, don't worry. See how it tests the 56 cent line here. So this support level right here should act as a secondary support to the VWAP. Okay, so if it drops below the VWAP, let it test 56 cents. If it goes below that, heaven forbid, you go ahead and call it a day and get out. But you're not going to lose a ton by doing that because you only took a small percent, right? As you get more confirmation, you add to your position. You never go all in the first go. Yeah, so I always preach that, and so I just do that because I've been burned a few times in the past, and I can probably make a full-length video on how I've lost money before and how I won't do it again. That's why I want to impart this on you as well. Try to get some good habits. Set a goal before you get into your trade. Set a limit. Now this is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to get. If it doesn't get there, it's okay. Sell off. But if you only added a small position in the first place, you'll have a lot lower of a loss. True, you'll have less gains, but if you continue to use this philosophy, you'll have a lot more green days than red days, and even though you're only growing 1 or 2% per day, that's still growth. And if you're familiar with exponential growth, 1% per day can get you very far in the big picture if you are consistent. And that's what I'm all about, is consistency. So I hope you found this beneficial. Please like and subscribe if you did. And obviously let me know in the comments below if there's anything else you want me to make sure to go ahead and cover. We have a fantastic Telegram community too. That is in the description below. So please reference that as well. Other than that, I can really just say we'll see you in the next video, and thank you so much for your time. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.